In the meantime, please tune into our Databricks LinkedIn page and Delta Lake YouTube channels. That's where you can find questions or you can post your own questions. And please say hi, where you're from. For those who are new to our session, these sessions are live and occur every 2 weeks on Thursdays. We try to keep it at 9 a.m. Pacific time or 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we bring a panel of contributors and champions of Delta Lake to this session who answers your questions live on Delta Lake open source software and any questions about how we are working with other open source ecosystem. So a mini recap from our last session. We had a fun Trino plus Delta session where we did some live music. We discussed Trino and Delta connector and hope we try to have fun on this session too. So please ask away your questions. We will be monitoring channels on LinkedIn and YouTube. Awesome. And without further ado, let's start by introducing our panel. We have awesome contributors, Scott and Ryan today, who will be answering your questions. So Scott, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself?
For sure. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Vini, for having me. My name's Scott. I've been working on Delta Lake for just about a year now. Currently, I'm working hard on the next release on some exciting new features that I'm sure I can talk about today. And yeah, looking forward to answering any of your questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Ryan, why don't you go next?
Yeah, hello, I'm Ryan. I'm software engineer at Databricks. And I have been working on Delta Lake since the beginning, which is kind of already almost 5 years. Yeah. And I'm pretty excited to hear and would like to hear like a feedback to the project. And maybe I can also try to help if you have any questions.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Scott and Ryan. So we have a few feeds coming in from LinkedIn. Wow, there are people joining from everywhere. All right, already the questions are coming in. So I'm going to read out the first question. The question is, do you have any option for data lineage for structured streaming?
No, basically right now for Delta Lake open source project, we focus on building this new, it's kind of like a data lake format. So we don't want to like make our scope much larger today right now.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we do have like other efforts in streaming area. I think this on this office hours, we will focus on what things we are working on in Delta Lake, and we will help you out with a lot of ins and outs of what is happening within the software. So ask away those questions. All right. Other question is, can we use Delta Lake for heavy volume load of data, like 600 gigabytes of data for atomic operations? So I think, Scott, do you want to answer that?
Ryan has more expertise here, but it depends on your exact use case. But Delta Lake is for data lakes, and we're here to handle heavy workloads. I'm curious if this is a 600 gigabyte commit, but again, data commits is different than actually committing to the transaction log, which is just metadata, which is very quick and easy. So again, it depends on their exact use case.
Rand, do you want to add anything else on that?
Yeah, I think that's correct. It's basically Delta build a metadata layer. So you can write like for example 600 gigabytes data, but usually you only have like a few data paths we need to save in metadata, which should be very fast and also scale well.
Yes, and also like Delta Lake is built for scaling your storage and operations, transactions. So definitely it's meant for big data workloads. Awesome. So we already have next question. Please explain the difference between serializable and write serializable isolation.
Yeah, I think it's probably harder to explain here. We can, I don't know who asked this question. Maybe we can put our document. I think we already have some document to explain this. So it's probably harder to answer this question in this of it all.
Yeah, I agree, Ryan. I think we also have a talk around this. So I will share the document and talk in the channel shortly after our AMAs. Another question we have is, do we have connectors to bring metadata into Purview or any other catalog services?
So it basically mean so currently Delta try to basically manage the metadata by itself, which we can ensure is atomic and you won't see any inconsistency between like a high metastore or for example other like a metastore service. So today we don't plan to do this, but if you have any great idea, you can raise an issue or maybe also open a pull request if you already have an implementation in like the Delta Lake project.
Yeah, so just adding on top of it, if you have like any kind of connectors that you don't see, or if you want to see any kind of features built in Delta Lake, we have very great SLA and our teams are working hard to determine the priorities. So please engage with us on GitHub and Slack. We will be happy to answer your questions. Awesome. There is a flood of questions, so it's hard to pick. But the next question is, how different is Delta Lake from Lakehouse? Can you say some use case examples? Pretty cool question, actually. Who wants to take this?
For sure. I'm sure, Vini, you can comment on it as well. But Delta Lake is just an underlying technology that enables you to build a lakehouse. So lakehouse is like an architectural paradigm for managing your end-to-end data use cases. And Delta Lake is just one technology in that chain that enables you to do so.
Exactly. And I think I will add on to what Scott said by giving some use case examples. For example, lakehouse is a term that we realize it's not something that we developed. It's something that we realized from a lot of use cases working with customers over a period of like last 4 years. So it just started becoming a thing. People are doing BI, analytics, machine learning, AI, everything together on a single platform, and that helps us coin a term, which is lakehouse. And Delta Lake is just an ideal enabler of or foundation of ideal open source lakehouse. So hopefully that helps answer your question. Another question is, okay, there's a question about optimize. So let me call that out. Can a Delta table go corrupt if the optimize query on it cancels or crashes midway?
Yeah, so basically Delta provide a ACID support, which support transactions, and the optimize command is also built on top of this, which will ensure your table will never get corrupt. For example, if you cancel optimize command, you will see either this command complete is never done anything, or it's already complete. There is only two states. Either it's entirely nothing changed, or it's already finished. And then you will never see like some partial state in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's right. As a transaction enable us to basically, help with that situation. That's why a lot of people or users use it to make sure that their data is not corrupt and it's reliable. Data reliability is one of the guarantees that Delta Lake provides. So, yeah. Another question is, any impact or limitation when using an Azure Data Lake as a repository instead of a native DBFS?
Yeah, I think this question probably not really a Delta Lake question. Yeah. And our team actually not really familiar with these two like products, so it's better to ask like using other channel. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, as far as Delta Lake is concerned, it's an independent project, and you can configure any kind of storage system underneath, and underneath the storage, whatever storage system you are using, follow the best practices on what their impact and limitations are. Interestingly enough, when you build data pipelines, you will encounter, like, if your data volumes are growing, there might be limits that cloud providers or any vendor will pose on your environment infrastructure. So be mindful of reading those documentation as well. And I'm happy to share some more. Cool. Another question is how Delta Lake caters to management of unstructured data, like meaningful information extraction. So I think this goes into maybe like text mining kind of data. Do you want to answer that?
Yeah, so basically Delta Lake doesn't really support unstructured data today, but with, like, for example, use Spark, you can actually easily pass like this unstructured data into like stored data and store in Delta Lake. And the Delta Lake also support, like, for example, schema evolution, which can like handle a lot of like a use case like this. Whenever you have some schema change in unstructured data, you can still inject like this data into Delta Lake.
Yeah, exactly.
Add on to that, Ryan, Delta Lake works really well with the medallion architecture of your bronze, silver, and gold tables. So what Delta Lake really enables you to do is import all of your data as bronze tables without parsing it or performing any kind of computation or transformation on it. And then, gradually aggregating it and parsing it and cleaning it up into your silver and gold level aggregates, which is just a really efficient pipeline and a really safe way to manage your data.
Exactly. Awesome. We have another question, which is, does Delta Lake able to read data from web services, meaning like some kind of external protocol?
Yeah, I think it basically depends what this web service. For example, like for S3, it's also like provide the data through web service actually, even it's like a storage. So if your web service can provide like all the storage like requirements we ask, then we should be able to support this by building, for example, a new implementation of log store on top of this web service. But it really depends on what the features your web service provides.
Exactly. It can be from, Delta Lake supports a wide variety of sources. You might have Kafka streaming coming up, which is ingesting data from your source systems to Delta Lake. So, any variety of system, like, for example, media files or, a IoT device, which is sending sensor data. So it could be like multiple things, which Delta natively supports. And then another question is, can you explain Delta Lake with one real-time scenario or use case? So I think this is like how Delta Lake is being used for streaming or real-time use case. Anybody wants to take that?
Yeah, I think maybe you have more.
Okay, I can. Yeah, I can answer that question. So for example, if you have real-time feed from an IoT device, for example, for example, if you are, I'm not really sure what your industry is, but I'm just going to take IoT example. So imagine you have 150 sensors on different trucks, and they are sending data in. You can actually have that feed into S3, and top it off with Delta Lake. How you use Delta Lake in that particular scenario is whenever you have a detection event, for example, a real-time detection event, if a driver behavior is going sideways based on your past analysis, you can actually put models around it and wait for those signals to help you out detect those signals and immediately take action on it. And Delta helps you with that because, you can have either batch or stream of data coming in from those devices, and help monitor or help put it into your machine learning pipeline, either in the batch format or streaming format. And you can basically basically either use those events to track, or maybe like whenever there has been a corrupt data, or maybe if your software so maybe you had a new release of software and something goes wrong, you can push it back using the transaction log from Delta Lake, and it helps you save those already detected events. So that's one of the use cases. I'm sure there are so many that I would be happy to share. We have like a whole use case repository, so I'm happy to share that link as well. All right, another question is, what sort of transaction volume does Delta Lake support for inserts or deletes? Wouldn't this be like just a basic property for Delta Lake? Doesn't, regardless of transaction volume, this is a Delta Lake characteristic, right?
Yeah, I think that maybe we need some like more details about the meaning of this transaction volume here. If you mean like, for example, how many like transactions we can do per second, that really depends like your data volume. So it's harder to answer this question without knowing your data.
Yeah, I think that's right. Maybe like you have a particular use case, and maybe the preliminary question is like, yeah, what sort of like how you're defining it may be helpful. Yeah. Also, another question is it mandatory to have bronze and silver layers? Can we combine into one storage?
I can take that, Vini. It's not mandatory. This is the medallion architecture is something that we have observed working really well for a lot of customers and a lot of users. It just enabled them to achieve the success they want with their pipelines. So it's certainly not mandatory, but it enables some really powerful features to be built on top of it. And if you have like more specific questions about how to build your pipeline, feel free to like message us on Slack or post an issue on our GitHub. And I'm not quite sure what you mean by combining into one storage, but perhaps this is a discussion we can like take offline.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I will also add to the Scott. While Scott said it's not mandatory and it's one of the best practices we have seen working well for customers, that's why in our medallion architecture we consider 3 types of layers, because we deal with a lot of different use cases. For example, somebody is working on machine learning, somebody is working on analytics. So analytics users who are building just the dashboards don't have to have raw data. They will be lost if you give them raw data. So it's very helpful to give them business level aggregates. And that's why goal tables are really helpful. Another scenario is if you have PII and non-PII data, you don't want to give access to everybody in your organization for all your data. So you make silver table where all data goes in. Not everybody has access to it. You make a bronze table as an extraction of that, and that can be like non-PII table where you can freely give, and also work towards having like some kind of governance around your data. That helps just as a best practices. That's why we have that in place. So it's not mandatory, but it is something that we recommend as we have seen it working well with customers. All right, another question is there a plan to integrate any data governance standards or data quality rules to make data management more robust right from the source through multi-tiered target? Let me paste this question in the chat, Scott, or Ryan. Is there a plan to integrate any data governance standards or data quality rules? So I think this is going towards expectations. So not really like a Delta Lake question, but feel free to correct me, Ryan or Scott, but this is something in Delta Lake tables. What you can do is you can define certain expectations and quality rules to ensure that, whatever you have going in, you have like you have a live lineage of whatever is happening within your data. So that's an architecture you can follow. Am I correct, Scott, Ryan? Anything you want to add? All right. Let me see if there are any questions. All right, this is a big question, so I'm going to paste it and bear with me while I read this question. I have a streaming pipeline to load data into Delta Lake. It has checkpoint as well. We observed as data grows, restarting the pipeline takes time due to checkpoint. Is there any way to restart the pipeline with minimal streaming initialization time?
Yeah, I think this is kind of usually when you restart a streaming query, it has to do a lot of work, like restore like all this existing state into like a memory, and also sometimes it may need to like do some Spark job actually in order to get this like a recovery like states. So, but it's basically it would be great to like know the exact details of when you mentioned here, you mentioned that when data grows. So it's what kind of data is the delta log, for example, transaction log, or is just like a packet files? In general, if the data grows is just like a packet file increase the logs, then this should not be a problem. So I guess this problem is like a transaction log, increase the logs, which sometimes you may need to like run optimize to compact like your small files to big files to speed up like all the Delta Lake operations. When can we use incremental?
Yep, that works, Ryan. Another question is, can we use incremental in live Delta tables?
Yeah, this probably this is not really a Delta Lake.
Yeah, and I think maybe like if this is meant for like how you separate batch or how do you define stream, maybe it's like trigger, if you set up trigger characteristics that would help you in determining when you want data to arrive. So set those trigger ones, or like how frequently you want to trigger, and the mode, is this happening in batch or stream mode? And then, Scott, you are working on CDF for the next release. Can you touch on that, like what CDF is, and in terms of Delta Lake, and what is that exact feature?
For sure. So yeah, so the next feature I'm currently working on developing is called Change Data Feed, or CDF for short. And what this enables users to do is actually capture row level changes instead of like per file level changes for like streaming queries, which serves a lot of like downstream use cases, and it's been a really highly demanded feature. So I'm really glad we're finally getting around to developing it.
That's awesome. And this CDF or change data capture means like it only will track the changes that happens, and it will add statistics to your transaction logs. Is that the feature?
Mm-hmm, exactly. So if there's only deletes, then we'll actually just tell you which rows were deleted. And if there's only inserts, we'll tell you which rows were inserted. But then there's more complicated cases, for example, updates and merges. And during cases like that, we'll actually tell you what the pre-update and the post-update values were, and then it's up to you in your downstream application to decide what you want to do with that information.
Awesome. That will be a nice feature. Another question was, in terms of next release that we are prepping up. I think we are soon going into our summit, which is happening in last week of June. What are other exciting features that you both are working on? Maybe we'll go with you, Scott, first, and then Ryan.
Sure, yeah. The next really exciting feature is Z-order optimize. So Optimize is already in Delta Lake, which allows you to essentially compact your data parquet files, which reduces the size of the transaction log. And like Ryan said, this speeds up the Delta log operations. And what zorder does is it's essentially a new algorithm to improve or optimize the optimize command. And it improves exactly how we determine best to compact your parquet files. So what it's really useful for is after you have partitioned your data, you now have all of these actual data columns. And it's a really hard problem to decide how to best co-locate or group files together based on n arbitrary amounts of data columns. So zorder is one such algorithm, which is a space filling curve, which basically is able to determine which best files to compact together. And the main benefit of this is during your next or after your queries afterwards, data skipping, which is another feature we released in Delta Lake 1.1, data skipping knows which files to skip. And this really just speeds up your queries.
That's awesome, Scott. So there was a follow-up question on the CDF feature that you're working on. Which sources are supported with CDF? Do we know that right now? Or that's still in works?
I'm not exactly sure which sources you're referring to. CDF is a feature that it can be applied to any change to the transaction log, regardless of where the source is coming from. So yeah, it should work. I'm curious what exactly they're referring to.
Yeah, so maybe if they post it, Adam, please post it, what you are referring to. This is just an extended feature on how we are evolving transaction logs. So doesn't matter, like whatever Delta Lake supports, this will support as well. Cool. So the next question is for you, Ryan. What are you working on? Exciting things.
Yeah, for me, while I'm working on Delta Lake, I'm also kind of also spend a lot of time working on Delta Lab table, which is a different project, but it's also built on top of Delta Lake to allow people to, for example, you can define your table and tell us the relationship between these tables. And then we will help you manage all these tables automatically. And basically, right now I kind of moving a lot of time on this project as well.
That's awesome, Ryan. There are a lot of questions on Delta Lake table. So whenever, I think we already have a demo and blog on Delta Lake tables. So I'm happy to post it on the Slack channel and stay tuned into that area as well. And there have been a lot of questions around Databricks, SQL, and some Databricks related question. Unfortunately, this is the forum for only our team, which is working on Delta Lake. So I will paste the channel link so that you can ask appropriate questions about Databricks and Databricks SQL. And also I will paste the link for our GitHub and Slack channels, where if this was not the forum where you got your questions asked, or if you are joining offline, please feel free to join us from Slack and GitHub. We definitely will get back to you on those. Recording. We are recording these sessions and it will be available shortly after, Naveen, if that's what you want. Cool. So that's about it. We are almost close to our time, and appreciate everybody who asked great questions. Highly encourage you to keep working with us, and if you are passionate about contributing, we also have some good first issues in GitHub, so please do engage with us. And thank you so much, Scott and Ryan, for being awesome panelists for this session. Hopefully we see you soon next week. And one more thing, if you want to join our summit, we will have a lot of meetups. We will have a lot of machine learning and AI visionaries, and I'm super excited. We will also have contributor meetup, and if you want to meet us in person, I will send you the registration link, so please check that out. Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, Vini. Bye, everyone.
Bye.